Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix playthrough. Last time we finished off Terra's story, and this time we begin a brand new one. So, there we go, nice little bit complete, and so we begin Ventus's story. Ventus is effectively the Sora of the game, and he is a lot of fun to play as. The beginning is basically just entirely the same as all of the others. It's just that you may get a few extra wrinkles here or there as you go. So, like, I'm not sure whether that glance towards Ven from Master Xehanort was present in the original scene, or at least when we saw it with Terra. And so it mixes it up a little bit, but this is definitely, I would argue, one of the more repetitive moments as you play through the game regularly, because it's that whole thing of you're playing through the same bits multiple times. And it's one of the things that games that have those overlapping different stories do tend to have trouble with, because they can often feel that, well, too repetitive in the grand scheme of things. And I would say that ultimately, while Birth by Sleep manages to avoid it in most instances, like I would say that obviously Radiant Garden is sort of one of the big crossover moments. I'd say that manages to avoid being too bad, apart from, you know, having to take down a lovely Unversed Arm or whatever the hell he's called, because I can't even remember anymore. I think it's Trinity Armour. That sounds about right. But I would say that this opening segment does suffer a little bit, because as you can see, it's like a good 10-15 minutes of kind of mostly cutscene. Most of it is repeated. It's not the most exciting thing either to begin with, but it's okay. So, as I said, Ven is basically the Sora, effectively, for the game. He has sort of decent manoeuvrability capabilities. He's pretty light on his feet, relatively average in terms of damage across the board. So really you would be using a mixture of attacks, like physical attacks and magic with him, because he's pretty decent at both. And also, obviously, he brings back the delightfulness that is the dodge roll. Also, he has a propensity for like using Strike Raid and all of the raid abilities, so they're definitely pretty awesome. Unfortunately, I don't think he might have a unique shock lock, but I'm not sure if he does. Oh no, well, he does have a unique final shot lock, because everyone does, but I'm not sure whether he has a unique starting one, because
but one must keep a still heart even in the most
Terra gets his
it was an excellent test.
Sonic Shadow and gets Bubble Blast, and I'm not sure whether the others get those. I might be completely wrong on that fact, but
now
part of me feels like they don't. Like, Ven doesn't get those.
Remember,
so,
there are no
either way.
Only truths. For when equal powers clash, their nature is
Now, something else, you've probably noticed I'm talking over this, and it's basically, as with, well, obviously I prefer to not talk over cutscenes these days anyway, because they can have some very important stuff, and also me blathering over the top of them can frequently diminish the emotional resonance of the moment. But in situations like this, where we've already seen the cutscene before, and it's not really adding anything new, then I'm just going to blather over the top of it because
you both performed commendably.
really,
However,
you've seen it before.
only Aqua has shown the mark
I'd say
of
the
mastery.
only one where that probably won't be the
Terra,
case
You
is
failed to keep the darkness within you
the
sufficiently
Radiant
in
Garden
check.
cutscenes in the
But
middle,
there is always next time.
where everyone overlaps, if only
is all.
because they are sort of
As our
notably
newest Keyblade
different
master,
in
you are
terms
entitled to
of
certain
where
knowledge.
they start and where
Please
they
wait here
end
for
and
further
all that
instructions.
jazz.
Hey.
But yeah, once again, it's really sad also watching all of this stuff happen again after you know how one of the story ends. One of the stories end. Because obviously Terra
What do
begins
you make
going,
of Ventus?
where was this darkness coming from?
He ain't gonna cut it.
Where did it come
Somebody's
from?
gotta break that loser
I've got to
in.
deal with it. And
Not
he
here,
struggles
you
with
won't.
that, and clearly, obviously, it's what leads him to his doom,
I know that.
which sucks.
He just needs a little incentive to leave home.
What doesn't suck, however, is that in Ventus's story, we get a marked increase in the amount of Vanitas that we get throughout the game. And actually, Vanitas is pretty awesome. I like the idea of him as a villain, and yay, we have a new cutscene! I can finally shut up!
Better hurry, Ventus,
Huh? Who are you?
or you'll never see Terra again.
What? Get real. I can see Terra anytime I want.
Like right now, he's leaving you behind. And by the time you catch up, he'll be a different person.
Look, whoever you are, you don't know the first thing about Terra. Me and him will always be a team. You trying to pick a fight or what?
Oh, grow up. Is that what you call friendship? You'll never know the truth unless you go out and look for it yourself. Come on, what could you possibly know when you're stuck here, looking at nothing but what's in your tiny world?
Terra! Terra! I...
It's okay.
Yeah.
Wait, Ben!
And so, Ven leaves home. Not the smartest move that he has ever probably made, especially considering, you know, where everything is ultimately going to end up. But the thing that I do like about that cutscene at the end there is that ultimately you do get that shift from, if you start playing Terra's story, then that obviously you then get Ventus' story that expands it a little bit, Aqua's expands it a bit further, so you get that cutscene extending as you go, which I think is quite awesome. Also, yes, I did go in and do a little bit of command boarding. As I said, from this point onwards, no more command board. It's just getting completely cut out because I can't be doing with it. Like, I think it'll drive me slightly potty because they were always the most difficult bits of the game to commentate over. And I don't think I could do that for Ven and Aqua's stories. It would just be a little bit too much. But here in the Dwarf Woodlands, we immediately get introduced to the 7 dwarves. Unfortunately, you know, they're not going hi-ho, 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 it's off to work we go, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, hi-ho, 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 etc, etc, etc. It's one of those moments where it's just like, you're killing me right now. Like, I needed a little bit of Disney classical music, and I didn't get it. But hey, I am grateful because, I mean, I don't know whether I've said at this point. Obviously, Kingdom Hearts 3 news keeps coming out as this is going to go along, so there's probably going to be moments where I go, "Ooh, Kingdom Hearts 3," and I get excited. But the other week, I think it was. I can't remember exactly when, I'm probably always said about it, but they revealed a demo of Kingdom Hearts 3 which went through the Toy Story world, and part of the music was "You Got a Friend in Me," and that's made me really happy. So it may just be that I think it's the Toy Box is what the Toy Story world's called. It may just be that the Toy Box is similar to, say, Atlantica, Halloween Town, Castle of Dreams, and Disney Town / Disney Castle, in having like Mickey Mouse Club March, etc., and Top of the Boo, Under the Sea, so on and so forth. It might just be that it's unique in that sense. There might be another world that has similar, but it does give me a little bit of hope that there will be a bit more attention paid to some of that wonderful Disney music, because it's one of the areas which I have frequently said Kingdom Hearts has always lacked a little bit for me with, anyway. Because I've always desperately wanted more of it, because obviously, I've said this many times before, but one of the best things about Disney films is the music. It's one of the most iconic elements, and to not reference it more is just, it's a shame. But, and I get that the whole idea is to create this brand new world and really make things maybe partially accessible for people who aren't so into their Disney, but also it opens up more creative avenues for Yoko Shimomura and the composers. But I think that it's something that really they should have done and should be doing with the music, because it then makes the worlds feel that much more linked up to the films that they're related to.
You mean you're not here for our diamonds?
But yes, all the dwarves.
I'm just trying to find a friend. His name is Terra. He's dressed kind of like me, about yay tall.
Sounds like a tall tale to me. Go on, get.
We don't know any Terra.
Please, could you come over here? I just want to talk.
Don't fall for it. Stay where you are.
All right, then we'll do this the hard way. Yeah.
And so, Ven's first boss fight, actually. It's not really a boss fight, it's more of a search fight than anything. But it's against the dwarves. So we've got Doc, Dopey's not part of the fight. Dopey's dopey and just ends up being out here. But Doc, bashful, grumpy, sneezy, sleepy and happy. Voiced by various people. I believe that Doc is voiced by David Ogden Stiers. Bashful is Jeff Bennett. Grumpy is Corey Burton. I'm not sure about Sneezy. He's not mentioned on the Wikipedia page. Sleepy is apparently Bill Farmer, and Happy is James Arnold Taylor. So they've got a nice mix there. Rather hilariously, everyone sort of seems to have jumped about a little bit in terms of who they're voiced in terms of their projects. Because the Seven Dwarfs have gone on to be part of an animated TV series called The 7D, which I still think is kind of a completely ridiculous thing, but it's something that they did. And Bill Farmer, who obviously most people would know for voicing Goofy, voices Doc in 7D, but obviously he voiced Sleepy in Birth by Sleep. Despite the fact that, you know, it's just like, why didn't they carry that one on? I'm just looking to see if there are any others who switch. I think it's just Bill Farmer. But it's kind of crazy because, yeah, so Doc, David Ogden Stiers, obviously Cogsworth. Obviously he has since passed away, which is really sad, but it happens. But then also they got in some kind of decent voice actors for the 7D, because obviously Bill Farmer, they got D. Bradley Baker, Billy West, Maurice LaMarche. Why does that name sound familiar? What have I? Oh, he's the voice of the Brain. Ah, there we go. They've got Scott Menville, and Stephen Stanton, and Kevin Michael Richardson. So they got in pretty decent voice cast for the Dwarves for 7D, which is kind of insane. But then again, it's the Disney machine, and obviously if they want to get voice actors in, then they definitely can do. I mean, just look at Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, because obviously they managed to get all of the living voice actresses for the Disney princesses to come back to voice them in that film, because obviously there's been a big deal made about that. Quite excited to actually see the film when it eventually comes out, but there's still a bit of time before that point. So Disney can do what they like. But then part of me does wonder sometimes why they end up changing certain voice casts around, when it's just like, but you've got a perfectly good cast there, but then I suppose really every now and again they want a different feel for these sorts of things, and I suppose the 7D was one of them. But yeah, this particular thing is not that difficult. If you manage to get Cure from the command board, which is where I got it from, then it does make it a lot easier, because there's not really that many HP orbs in this, which can be a pain, because when the dwarves run about, they can cause a little bit of damage to you. Like, they're not difficult to break out of their crates, but they can be just a bit of a pain. And really, strike raids are your friend for getting through this. because you just get to keep your distance and they don't run. Probably the most difficult one to actually take down is, I think it might be Sleepy. One of them is on the minecart, rolling around on a loop. Which, yeah, let's just say, can be a bit of a nightmare to hit. Oh no, it's bashful.
Come on. I'm telling you, I'm no thief.
Ha! That's what they all say. Well, we're on to you.
Fine, I get it. You want me to leave, I'll leave. Oh, but can you tell me where I can find some other people around here?
There's a castle beyond the chorus. I mean the forest.
Got it. Well, thanks.
Well, I mean, weren't they delightful, hey? So, yeah, once again, just making sure that I get all the treasure chests. I believe that I am about right for where we are right now. But that's all good, and that definitely wasn't in the right place, but it's fine because, you know, we'll sort that as we go. And yeah, you also get to see my, the method in which I did my saves. Because obviously I don't want to take up too much space on my PS4, because, you know, I might want to actually use it for other games. So I'm not just going to create a brand new save file for every single save point, although I am going to use every single save point, because as, you know, you've probably noticed, I'm an absolute save whore. I see a save spot, I save. It's just the way it happens. Because otherwise, I get a little bit antsy in the pantsy. Because I feel like something's going to go incredibly wrong. It's likely not going to go incredibly wrong, but it's just the way it works. And already leveling up Aqua, I'm totally down with this. As you can see, I learnt my lesson when it comes to the D-Links. So, throughout, we will definitely be levelling all of them up as they come along. Annoyingly, I don't think that Ven has any unique ones, but hey, these things happen.
This must be where those little men live. Huh? There!
And yes, we are about to go and meet Snow White. And let's just say that if you thought that escorting Cinderella in Terror Story was bad, oh boy, you haven't met Snow. And also, that sticker is going to taunt me for a long, long time. Because, as you can see, there is no way that we can get enough height to hit that. And, yeah, no way at this point in the game are you going to be able to hit that sticker. So, yeah, you're just going to come back later, because obviously that's a totally nice and fair thing to do. I'm going to try it though. It's not going to succeed. But I thought, oh, maybe if I could just get that little bit of extra height. No. You need a bit of a high jump. Which, you know, we're not going to get for a while. So, yeah, that one's just going to have to sit there. And I'm going to have to cry. Because clearly, I can't have things my way. Because obviously game developers need to think about my feelings and my need to do a video game playthrough for the internet. Clearly, that's totally a legitimate argument to be having. And for anybody who thought I was serious, for the love of God, do not take that seriously, because Jesus, what? That's like the major asshole thought process that some people go on of, well, why didn't you think about me in this situation? It's like, well, you can think about a lot of things, but some people just have the weirdest specifications for their needs. And oftentimes it's just ridiculous. So, really? Just, I ignore it most of the time. That said, I do think that they could have made this particular escort mission, as we are about to do, quite a bit easier than it is. Because it's just a wee bit of a nightmare. And there's always one chest. Annoyingly, we can't actually get that until the end of the world. But there we go. Here's Snow White!
These horrible trees! They tried to grab me!
It's okay. You were probably just seeing things. It happens to all of us when we're afraid.
Oh, thank you. I feel quite better now. I'm sure I'll get along, somehow. But I do need a place to sleep at night. Would you know anywhere I might?
Well, I saw a house just up ahead. Come on, I'll take you there. Oh, I'm Ventus. Ven for short.
Thank you, Ven. My name's Snow White.
Great. Let's get going.
And here we go into this pretty awful escort mission. Because unlike Cinderella, who you know was smart and ran straight forward towards her goal, Snow White decides that rather than going in the logical straight path, she's just going to go and go any which way she pleases and get attacked by delightful evil trees, which you can only actually stop hurting her by doing that protective thing where you stand in front of her, which is just a little bit of a pain, because it's a bit difficult to make sure that you're there when, you know, she is about to get attacked. And it doesn't necessarily, well, it doesn't do both trees at once. So, yeah, it's just like, Snow, why are you going the way you're going right now? Because it's clearly a stupid path. And then also she randomly stops in places, and it's just like, Snow White, just, seriously, this is not a difficult area to get through. The guide I was using did suggest using Mini, because what it does is it, obviously it shrinks all your enemies and that just makes life a bit easier. But, as you can see, it doesn't always necessarily work out. And, because obviously this is Proud Mode, she takes that bit more damage than you would want to. And, as you can see, this is going to be a really, really tight, tight run, because she's just not doing anything and it wasn't letting me stop, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on right now? But thankfully, with these final two enemies, who, you know, I minied so they couldn't actually do any damage, this awful escort mission is over. Oh no, there's even more enemies. For goodness sake. We are very nearly there though. There we go. It's just that little bit further. But yeah, Jesus wept, that thing is just awful.
I'm pretty sure you'll be safe here. But sit tight while I look around.
Someone's asleep in here.
The coast is clear. Not a monster in sight. Huh.
Couldn't stay away, could you? And who invited you in, you rotten thief?
Oh no, he's not a thief. He rescued me.
You mustn't be moved. I mustn't be fooled by him, Princess.
Just go on and get.
Please don't send him away. You see, he helped me when I was lost. And oh so very frightened.
What happened?
Well, I was picking flowers by the wood, and there was a stranger there. He had a sword, but it was like a key. And then these monsters came and...
A sword like a key. Terra!
You mean this stranger saw you and sent his horde of evil demons after you?
Terra would never do that!
Oh, of course. I'm sure he wouldn't. Not if he's someone who's your friend.
Princess, you trustn't be so trusting.
He's a lion! Mark my words!
I'll prove it!
Yeah, then you can prove it all you like, but while Terra, you know, didn't set a horde of Unversed on her, it was more, you know, her fledgling emotions of fear that caused that. He did go to take her heart, so really, he's not in the best of positions. That said, obviously we're not going to get a chance to meet Terra because we have this thing. And, yes. This Unversed is, he's not too bad. It's generally recommended that if you've picked up the fire so far, to make use of it. I made a terrible mistake in coming in with Mini, because it's absolutely useless to me. But thankfully I do have Cure, so that really is the key godsend for this particular fight for me. But yes, this is the Mad Treant. Obviously, basically, tree, and it's the same idea as like Trevenant and all of that in Pokemon. He's one of the bosses that has received a recolor. In the original, he looked much more like an actual tree. In this version, he's black and autumnal and evil, which I suppose fits a little bit better for the delightfulness that is the darker woods here. But either way, making use of Aqua's magical abilities, which really I desperately needed, because clearly my setup was absolutely dire. We should be able to take him down alright, and immediately we learn Firestorm as well, so a lot of fire going on in this one. I do love the fire attacks though, so I suppose it all does work out in the end.
Excuse me, ma'am. You dropped this.
Oh, I thank you, my pet. To tell the truth, I really don't know what I would have done without that. Haven't I seen that sword before?
Terra has one. You know Terra?
Oh, yes, yes. That ruffian pointed one of those at me asking about some Xehanort. My poor heart nearly stopped.
That doesn't sound like him at all. Ma'am, where did Terra go?
I'm sure I have no idea. Must you all menace a poor granny so?
What? No, I was just... Terra, what did you do?
Well, I mean, to be honest, that old lady was clearly off a rocker, so I wouldn't put too much stock into her words, because, like, clearly, it's not necessarily all going on up there. It's also, you know, really all not going on in the facial area either, because there's that one person where you turn around and you're just like, ugh. That is one ugly person. But yes, first off, let's make sure you know I have actual decent commands in my command deck if I'm going to be doing anything. Because, for the love of God, I need some stuff to get through. And would I like another strike raid? I would like, as you can see, a newer command, because that's always most exciting in the grand scheme of things. And that wasn't the exciting that I was wanting, because I basically just created an action command rather than, you know, a fighting command, and now I have less fighting commands to work with. And this is going to be a pretty much consistent thing, if I recall correctly, throughout Ben's story, of me going to meld commands together and just completely flubbing it. Thankfully, as you know, I am using D-links a lot more. I am going to be pretty much okay in terms of everything, and please let me fully level up Aqua in this area. That would be particularly nice, if only because, you know, then I can immediately move on to like Terras and Snow Whites and all that jazz. Basically, you know, I'm just wanting to get them all fully leveled up as quickly as possible. Not that really after that I'm ever going to use them again, even though they can be incredibly nice and broken. Some more so than others. Like, I think there's definitely more than a few that can really put you in a good position, even in boss fights. Like, I've got this sort of sense of pride, I suppose, and oh, for God's sake, I just missed that one. That's cruel. But yeah, I have this sense of pride when going into boss fights of, I want to win this based solely upon my success in playing the game with the commands that I've got, rather than going, well, the only reason I managed to get through this was because I made use of a D-link. Which is a kind of stupid sense of honour to be having, because really, does it matter? If you beat the bloody thing, you beat the bloody thing. Like, there is no reason to be so set on doing anything for that type of idea. But I suppose it's the same idea as in, well, really Pokemon games, with that whole thing of, well, some people are particularly stubborn in wanting to catch legendaries in Pokeballs, just because, you know, it's that extra bit of challenge. I remember someone who I used to know who pretty much tried to exclusively catch them in Premium Brawls, which obviously, very difficult thing to actually pull off. But from what I recall, she was actually pretty successful in that, for the most part. Which is great. It's good when people can do it. It's just that frequently there's no reason to put yourself through that extra frustration in order to do something that you aren't required whatsoever to do. Now, what's actually really nice is, despite the fact that you know, we didn't get Aqua fully leveled up in that initial trip through the Darkwood section, I suspect/hope that we'll actually be able to do it on our return trip through, because obviously with pretty much all of the enemies in Kingdom Hearts, they respawn whenever you exit an area. Obviously the one exception to that one is the Keyblade Graveyard and Twister Trench. But everywhere else, the second you leave the area and go into a new one, then you immediately get your lovely extra stuff. Also, once again, as with Terra Story and also Aqua's, pretty much, if you're playing on Proud Mode, which I would say is probably recommended in a way. I mean, if you want to make sure that you get everything completed, you will have to do a critical run of Birth by Sleep at some point, because there are trophies and other things associated with beating the game on critical. That said, some of the bigger challenges in the game you probably don't necessarily want to be doing on critical, because they can be pretty horrendous. So I would say that really you want to be taking them down on Proud or Normal. So for most people it will probably take you about 2 runs of Birth by Sleep in its entirety in order to fully complete everything. One on, say, normal mode, where you kind of complete the reports, and then one on critical for that kind of critical trophy. And I have to say, I really do like Magic Volley. It's a pretty awesome attack, and it is actually a, it's a little bit of a spoiler, well, it sort of is, but sort of isn't, it's a D-Link, so hey. But it's actually Aqua's final finish command, which would lead me to believe that the same is true for both Ventus and Terra. So their ultimate D-Link finisher is their ultimate final finisher. So even though I'm not going to get to show those off to you, in terms of with the characters and, you know, well, the actual finish commands, you are going to get to see their finishers in D-Link form. So I suppose in that sense, it all works out in the end. And there's no more enemies, are there? Bloody hell. But it's all okay, even though, you know, still can't get the sticker. And no, past me, whatever you do, you're not going to get that sticker, so just save up and get the hell out of here, because we've got lots and lots to do. So, with saving up, it is time to head on to our next world. It's going to be very exciting.